What's going on, guys? Welcome to the UFC 251 preview show. I'm your host, Ryan Galloway, and joining me as always is site manager Jordan Ellis. How's it going, Jordan?
It's going good. How are you, mate?
I'm good. And so this event we've got coming up this weekend, massive event, and I mean, probably one of the most talked about events of recent time because of all the controversy around the main event over the last couple of days. Obviously, Gil Burns had to pull out due to getting sick with coronavirus, and Masvidal stepped in on short notice to replace him, which is a fight that we thought was going to happen initially. We thought that was going to be the headline on this card originally, and now it's put back together. Really exciting fight. What do you think about the whole event, and everything about it, Fight Island, whatnot?
It's very exciting. It's especially exciting where they've took a week off and it's allowed, fans like myself to just, want the UFC and want to be watching fights again. And then they come back with something like this. It's just hats off to the UFC for pulling it off. The majority of sports are just getting back now. They're all, and UFC have been going for months and they're holding big events like this in Abu Dhabi, and the in fairness, they're taking every precaution. They're catching all these people with coronavirus. There's been a lot of people popping this week, but they're getting before they're here on the plane, and so it is very safe as well. Which I know a lot of people were worried about. But this event, what more can you ask for? 3 title fights, a stacked card. There's not much else more you could want.
Absolutely, and you're right. They have put in a lot of measures to vet people with the COVID-19 before they get on the plane. It seems to be working, so I think it's going to be a pretty smooth time on the island. I can't see anyone getting sick there, which is good because, I mean, all of these fighters now are on the island, I believe. I think Masvidal and Usman left earlier today or yesterday. So yeah, we'll jump straight into the main event, which is that matchup for the welterweight title. I think this matchup is more interesting because it is a short notice fight. I think if both fighters had a full camp for this one, I'd be leaning hard towards Usman. I think I'm still leaning towards Usman, but I would be. If they both had a full camp for each other, I think Masvidal's chances would be substantially lower than they are now, due to the fact that Usman's been training for Burns, who's predominantly a grappler, and his striking isn't similar to Masvidal's. He's a very different striker to Masvidal. So I think due to the situation, Usman's taking a big risk taking this matchup on short notice. Masvidal, on the other hand, it's a win-win for him. If he loses, he took the fight on short notice, so his stock doesn't go down too far. If he wins, the world's his oyster. He can do whatever he'd like. He's going to be the champion, the BMF champion. So, breaking down this fight technically, though, I think we're going to see Usman wrestle. I think it's going to be pretty obvious. He's going to do what he did to Woodley. He's going to go put him on the cage, work him to the ground, try and hold him down and beat him up as long as possible. If Masvidal can stop the takedown is the big question here, because we watched him fight Maia, and Maia managed to take him down multiple times, and Maia is half the wrestler Usman is. So if Masvidal can't stop the takedown, his chances of winning become substantially lower. Can he win? Sure. He can catch him, like he did with Askren, like he did with Till. He's a great striker. He's probably a much better striker than Usman, much, much better. So there is that factor. Every round starts on the feet. But in this one, I'm edging towards Usman. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's hard not to edge towards Usman in this one. He's had the luxury of a proper camp. Jose hasn't. He's the champion, and as we were saying the other day, I think he's a top guy. So I don't see many people, getting the better of him. I think it's just gonna have to be about moments for Jorge. Like, there is gonna be a moment where he can stand and where he can let his shots go, and he's just got to capitalize on them. It's all about how good Usman is and how many of them moments come. So it's hard not to favour Usman. I expect what you just said. I expect him to wrestle him and look for the finish on the floor. But I don't want to count Masvidal out. I know it's 6 days notice, but some people perform better like that. A lot of people step up. We've seen Bisping do it, and he was saying he felt better than ever, stepping up on a few days notice. Masvidal might feel fresh, he might feel loose, he might feel, unhindered by a long fight camp, and he just come in and he can land something flush. And I wrote him, I didn't think he'd beat Till, I didn't think he'd beat Askren, and I'm just kind of done, going too hard against Masvidal, because he is improving. I know people point out his record and how many losses he had, but he's getting better. He's catching people with really sneaky shots, like high level stuff as well. So I don't discount, I can see him knocking Usman clean out, but then I think, using my head, Usman is the favourite, and he's the favourite for a reason, and he probably will wrestle to a victory. But But yeah, let's not count Masvidal out. That's why it's so exciting.
Absolutely. And Masvidal does have Penn State wrestler Bo Nickel in his corner for this fight. And you got to think, seeing as they're flying over there together and they're in quarantine in their hotel room for 2 days, you got to think the lead up to this fight is just going to be wrestling. I can't imagine he's going to do a lot of technical striking training. You know, he might hit some pads every now and then, but I'd imagine this week for him is just going to be drilling wrestling, drilling takedown defense over and over and over again. So having someone like that in his corner, how much is that going to assist him, you know? Because I guess on the day, in the fight, you can train as much as you want. You can say you can do whatever you're going to do, but in that moment, in the heat, can you adapt to what your coach is saying? That's what it's going to come down to. But yeah, the last time I counted Masvidal out against a wrestler was when he fought Askren. And I was telling everyone, I was like, bet the house on Askren. I was like, he takes people down, he holds them down, and he beats them up. That's what he does. Masvidal went out there and finished him in 4 seconds. So, you know, I think whenever Masvidal fights, there's always a possibility that he can find the finish. And should he do it in this fight, it'll be the biggest moment of his career for sure. He could beat Conor after this, and this would still be the biggest moment of his career due to the circumstances around it, and I guess the back and forth they both had together, you know, leading into this one. But yeah, anything else you had to say about this fight before we move on?
No, obviously, we spoke about the wrestling, and I don't think he's gonna. I wouldn't. He's not gonna be able to close the gap on him and Usman in terms of wrestling for in the next few days. What he can do is sharpen his own skills, and I think McGregor mentioned it when he fought Khabib. He thought he was too focused on defense rather than offense. So it's important not to get too hyped up. Usman, as good as the wrestler he is, he's not the best wrestler in the UFC by a long shot. So there is better wrestlers. Usman, I can't remember the last time someone just held him down and dominated him on the floor. So it's not a mismatch in the wrestling by any stretch of imagination. This isn't Khabib. He's not just one. Usman's got more tools as well. He's got good hands, as we see in the Colby fight. He can, and a lot of the stuff against Woodley was against the fence. So he's got a variety of things, and I hope Masvidal doesn't become too focused on the wrestling side of things. I hope he's just able to keep the fight standing for as long as possible, and then we can see him throw them hands.
Yeah, well, it's worth noting that Usman does have the lowest time on his back in the UFC. He has 2 seconds on his back, and that's it. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. Another thing to take into account is Masvidal's got decent jiu-jitsu. He's not the worst grappler in the world, you know. He's got decent grappling. So maybe that'll come into play. Maybe he can pull off a sleek submission. I know he's not known for it. Maybe something can happen. Who knows? We'll move on to the co-main event, which is the rematch between Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway. This one, I don't think it's as interesting as the main event because we've seen it happen, and when it did happen, it was quite convincingly Volkanovski's fight. The narrative going into this one that Holloway hasn't trained. He's been training over Zoom, apparently, allegedly. I don't know if I believe it, but allegedly he's been training over Zoom, whereas Volkanovski's been in a gym, training with coaches, training with training partners. So if I take Holloway at his word, I am betting the house on Volkanovski here. But I don't think that's true. I think he has been training with partners. I think he just didn't want to say because obviously he wasn't meant to be training because Hawaii had whatever laws they have. But can Holloway adapt and bring a new game plan that we haven't seen from him? Because he did what he always does in the last fight and it didn't work. So can he adapt majorly to bring something new to the table? What do you think?
I think he needs to just be more aggressive. I think in the last fight, he's a very he needs to get into a rhythm. Holloway, he goes through the gears and he starts to look better as the rounds go on. But Volkanovski just didn't give him a chance to even get into first gear last time. He weren't there to be hit. He weren't able to get any punches off. It was a tough night. I think Holloway just needs to be aggressive from the bell. He can't be having a slow first round. I know he usually slow off the mark in rounds 1 and 2. He can't be on this night. He needs to change in that way, and I think he can. Obviously, he's not going to be as sharp as he should be if he's just training on his own on Zoom. You need bodies in there to get your reactions time up, but I don't believe that either. Like a lot of fighters we spoke to and interviewed have been open about, we've been training. It's maybe not legal or whatever, but maybe Holloway's just a bit more cautious of the law. But I do think he's been training hard for this one. I don't think he'd take this fight because it's a must-win fight for him. He does need to win some. I expect him to come in and look better, and I'm still edging him, but literally it's a toss of the coin. It's a 50-50, this one for me. I do think I just rate Holloway so highly, and the performance from Volkanovski, although dominant on the cards, it weren't. At no point did I worry for Holloway. Did I think, oh, he's getting outclassed? Oh, he's getting hurt. It was just a point victory. He just kind of wormed his way to victory. So I still think Holloway.
Yeah, he just got outstruck in that last one. But one thing I do disagree with you on, I don't think this is a must-win fight for Holloway because he's always going to be a fan favorite fighter. I think you look at Aldo. Aldo lost to McGregor, and then he fought. I think he fought Holloway for the belt next, right? And he lost to Holloway, and then he lost to Holloway twice. Sorry. Then he beat Moicano and Jeremy Stevens. Then he lost to Volkanovski, and now he's fighting for another title. Oh, he lost to Marias. I think I think Holloway will be one of those fighters. He's always going to find himself in title contention, even if he loses this one. If he beats a Zabit or who else, Yair or a Korean Zombie, if he beats someone, he'll be right back into the featherweight picture. Or he moves up to 55, and I reckon he moved up to 55. They'll give him a Ferguson, maybe his first fight. Someone in the top 5, straight up, they'll give him. And should he beat that person, he's right next to the title there as well. So I wouldn't be too worried for him losing this one. However, I think if Volkanovski wins this one, it's going to propel him much further than when he beat Max the first time. Because I think a lot of people weren't aware of who he was at the time when he fought Max. And then he won. Obviously got a few more eyes on him. But I still don't think he's reached the potential to like a level of where Max is or anyone like more popular than Max. So I think a win here puts him up there as like in contention to be one of the best featherweights ever. I mean, everyone was saying that about Max, and he goes out there and beats Max. If he beats Max twice, what's that say? He beat Aldo as well. So I think it would be a very good win for Volkanovski. And if he loses it, we'll probably get a trilogy fight.
Yeah, I think my point on Holloway is that it is bad for his legacy. Like people do speak about Max as one of the best 45ers of all time, and if he loses this, he isn't. Like it's as simple as that, really. But I do think he'll fall on his feet because he is a popular fighter, and the 155 division right there. He just needs to bulk up, and he put on a good show against Poirier, and we know how good Poirier is. So
absolutely.
I wouldn't worry about him and getting fights, but in terms of his legacy, and I'm sure he wants to be, his thing would be, I want to be the best featherweight ever, and losing Volkanovski, that's done. Then if he loses twice to Volkanovski, he's not the best featherweight ever, and so that's why it is a must-win fight. But he'll be okay, whatever happens.
Absolutely. We'll jump down to the first title fight of the night, which is for the vacant bantamweight title between Peter Yan and Jose Aldo. And I've swayed both ways throughout this week breaking this fight down. My first initial thoughts on this were that Yan was going to smash through Aldo. I thought Aldo is a bit towards the end of his career, even though he's young. I thought he was towards the end of his days. And he looked good against Marlon, but I didn't think he looked fantastic against Marlon. So I thought Yan all the way. Then I was watching tape, and I watched the way that Aldo dealt with Faber compared to the way Yan did. Yan might have finished him, but Aldo beat him. He beat the legs off him. He just punished the legs. And watching Yan fight Rivera, I think his last fight before Faber was Jimmy Rivera, he was susceptible to the leg kick. So if we get like a prime Aldo who goes out there and smashes the legs, this could be a very interesting fight.
Yeah, I'm still going big on Yan. I think that's what a lot of people, when they speak about Jose Aldo, they look back at these fantastic performances where he's smashing in leg kicks. Whereas, when does he do that now? He's not relentless with the leg kicks anymore. I'd say Edson Barboza is one of the most relentless leg kickers, or Justin Gaethje. I don't really think of Aldo, but I know a lot of the old school people do. When they think of leg kicks, they think, oh, Aldo's the best leg kicker. Assessing them performances, obviously Aldo's in his peak condition. He's far from that now. He's been knocked out a couple of times, and I just think it's a crossover fight. I think Yan is on the cusp of achieving great things. He wants to take out a big name. Getting Aldo on your record is going to be immense for him. It takes him to the next level. But Aldo, I can't discount him just because he is so big, and he did look okay against Marias, and Marias is the top fighter as we've seen. So I don't discount him out. I think he could pull it off. But I am fully on the Peter Yan chain. I think he is the next guy, and I'm excited to see him perform.
It'll be interesting to see who the 5 rounds favours, because Aldo's done 5 rounds quite a few times now. Not recently, though. Jan, I don't think, has ever done 5 rounds in the UFC, at least. So I wouldn't be able to tell you who is more durable over 5 rounds. So that'll be another factor to take into this. If I'm going to take a final prediction here, my heart's telling me Aldo, but my head's telling me Jan. So I'm going to go Jan as well on this one.
Yeah, I think Jan will knock him out inside 3 rounds. I don't think the 5 rounds will be an issue. But then it's also it's interesting the 5 rounds on Aldo's side, because he's doing that big weight cut and he is big for 135, so that's an issue. And then Peter Yan, we haven't seen him, so the 5 rounds does come into it, and it does play into these big fights. So if Aldo can take him to the later rounds and he's used to that and he's okay with the extra weight off, makes for an interesting fight, but I just don't think it'll get there.
All right, so the fight before that, we have 2 former champions facing off. And I think, I could be wrong, but this is the only time I can remember from memory where 2 fighters who have lost the belt in their last fight have fought, right? When else has 2 fighters who, in their last fight, lost the belt, fought each other without the belt being on the line, you know what I mean? This is like a rare
now
occurrence.
You're asking me a question.
Yeah, I think it's a rare occurrence.
It must be.
So, anyway, this matchup between 2 former strawweight champions, I think it's pretty simple how this one goes. I can't see it going any different from the first fight, other than the I don't see her being spiked in her head this time. I think she lets go of that Kimura. But, Andrade's got that just reckless dive for you, grab your legs and just slam you. It's not even double leg takedown. She just picks you up and drops you, and it works. She gets people down and beats them up. But we saw in the first fight, she couldn't get near her. She was getting pieced up at range. She was getting outboxed. She got hit with a knee and she was stumbled. And then in the third round or second round, I think it was third, she comes out there and picks her up and slams her. And I to be honest, I think she got lucky with that one. So I think we see Rose piece her up for 3 rounds.
Yeah, we spoke about it the other day briefly, and obviously you never want to say something was a fluke or a fighter was lucky, but in that certain situation, she was a bit lucky, and Rose did make a mistake. She held on to a submission when she shouldn't have, and she paid for it. So it is one of them. And I love Rose. I think she's a brilliant fighter. I think she's the next champ. So she just needs to get through this one, and it is a tough fight because Jessica, she's dangerous for the full 5 rounds. And Rose, we know she got that knockout over Joanna, but she's not really a one-punch knockout artist, and it probably is going to drag into the later rounds. So Jessica's always going to be there, and she's always going to be a threat. I think it's just about keeping her range and doing what she did last time, just not getting spiked on the head.
Well, also, this one's only 3 rounds. You got to remember that. This isn't a 5-round fight. This is only 3. So Rose only has to be perfect for 3 rounds, whereas in the other fight, she had 5 rounds to be worried about. So, yeah, I think it's probably going to be most people's pick that Rose takes this one out. And, yeah, it's pretty simple. But the biggest favourite on the card, Amanda Ribas fighting Paige VanZant. I think Amanda Ribas is a minus 900 favourite or something ridiculous. And you can see why. She's 8-1, I believe. She's got a crazy good record, whatever it is, and she's just, since she joined the UFC, beaten people, and she's just looked good doing it. She beat Mackenzie Dern. So VanZant hasn't fought in quite some time, and the last time she fought, she got a victory over Ostovich, I believe. But before that, she was on a bit of a losing streak. So I think after this fight, win or lose, she's gone. I think she leaves the UFC. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's why they've matched her with Ribas. They've just thought, I think the UFC are a bit sick of her now, like trying to tie her to a contract. She won't sign. She wants to go and make some money. And they've just said, okay, here's your last fight. Take that. They're not trying to build her anymore. They're not trying to protect Paige VanZant. They're throwing her to the lions here, and that's why she's such a big underdog. And she's coming off about an 18-month layoff, and she's had a terrible time. We've been documenting it on Low Kick. That continuous arm injuries and continuous surgeries, and it's difficult for her. But if she can actually pull this off, she is a talented fighter, and I think her talents go underrated just because she is what she is on Instagram and things like that, and she does all that silly stuff. But when you look at her actual fighting skills, she is a really good fighter. But Amanda Ribas is a really, really good fighter, and she's coming for a name, and she's putting a name on a record. Beating Paige VanZant, there's a target on Paige VanZant's head. Taking her out is good for your record and good for publicity and things like that. So I expect Ribas to win. I just think she's what the future, and VanZant is she's in a difficult spot now, but I'm sure she'll get paid either way. so she won't mind too much.
Absolutely, and I think for VanZant, what she's got to do in this is she's got to take it to the ground. She's got to get on Ribas's back, because I think in the striking exchanges, I think she gets pissed up. I don't see her out striking Ribas, so it's going to be difficult for her to win. Obviously, it's doable. I think if she could cause problems if she manages to get her back. If she gets Ribas's back, you really have to see what kind of grappling credentials Ribas has herself. But yeah, it makes sense why she's such a large favourite going into this. And I think, yeah, Paige probably goes to Bellator after this, I reckon, because her husband or boyfriend or partner or whatever, he's in Bellator. Maybe that's what she does next. And I think she could be a Bellator champion. She could go through, smash through those girls there. Not to say they're worse than the UFC's athletes, but the pool of people at women's flyweight in Bellator is completely different to the ones in the UFC, She was never going to beat a Shevchenko. There's no chance she gets a belt in the UFC. So I think for her to move to Bellator would be a wise move for her career.
Yeah, and I think Amanda Ribas has still got it all to prove as well. I think besides Mackenzie Dern, this might be the best win on the record if she managed to beat Paige VanZant. And, Dern was coming off a long layoff as well. So she's not, remember, Ribas, she's not the finished article yet, and she's still got it all to prove. So I don't rule out a Paige VanZant's upset. And I think at the odds they're giving on her, she might be worth a little bit, but you've just got to look at Ribas and what she's been doing, and you've just got to expect her to get by someone like this and keep pushing on the way she has been. Absolutely.
So that's the main card done. I know you wanted to touch on the featured prelim between Volkan Ozdemir and Jiri Prochazka. So I'll throw that one to you to break down.
It's just a great fight, and it's as tough as debuts come, really. Volkan Ozdemir he's a serious guy, and I thought he beat Dominic Reyes. I'm fully backing him. He beat Rakic last time. I think he beat Reyes, and he's a devastating knockout artist. So in terms of debuts, they don't go much better. But I know Jiri, he's really highly touted by a lot of people, and a lot of people rate him. He's riding about a 10-fight win streak. He's beat King Mo, he's beat CBWA, he's Fabio Maldonado. They're good names, good UFC, Bellator level fighters. So it's going to be interesting. And he's only 27, so that the age is always something that I pay attention to. I just think age tells you a lot about where people are in their career and how he can develop and get better and things like that. So very, very interesting featured prelim. I'm going to go Volkan just because I'm a big fan. I think he's got the power to take out someone like this, and I do think he's also probably on his way back to a title shot at some point. So I'm picking Volkan in this one. Absolutely.
Is there any other fights on the card you wanted to touch on, or we're getting to news?
Let's have a look. No, it's obviously Amir Khan's fighting. Always interested to see him, and Danny Henry. That's a good fight. And then I know you spoke to Martin Day a few days ago. Yeah. How did he seem ahead of his fight?
Yeah, he seems good. I mean, they were just about to end the quarantine inside the hotels when I spoke to him, so he hadn't had a chance to look around the island and get training in their facilities. But he said he was doing as much training as he could in the hotel, and he said he was ready for this fight because obviously coming off quite a big layoff. His last fight was in 2018, I believe, but it was quite some time ago. He had 2 booked over the last year or so that fell through, and he finally gets this one here, and yeah, he's just looking for that big finish. Obviously, in his debut, the judges didn't see it his way. A lot of people did see it his way, but the judges didn't. So I think he's just going out there to prove something in this fight, that he can get that finish and that he belongs in the UFC,
It's a tough fight as well, because Davey, I remember watching him on Tough, and he did well, and he's got a win over Marlon Vera, I think. So it's not an easy fight, but it'll be a good fight, that one, to open us up. Yeah, but besides that, I'm done with this card. Let's crack on with news.
For sure. And I think the biggest news of the day is probably where am I here? Pedro Munoz testing positive for COVID-19. That's another one after Burns test positive. So now Munoz is out and Frankie Edgar's looking for an opponent. And so I've seen multiple fighters throw their name in. Obviously, we spoke of just a second ago, Cheeto Vera threw his name in and said he's happy to go there and fight him. Don't think they'll go with that one. Aljamain Sterling says he's packing for Fight Island now. So I don't know, is he going there to be a sub for the title fight, or is he going there to take on Frankie Edgar for his debut? What do you think?
He might be heading there just to coach someone. I don't know who's part of his team, and so he might just be there as a cornerman and end up signing up. I know Ricky Simone, he's over there now, and he's already put his hand up and said, "I'll fight Frankie." So that's a more likely fight. With Ricky Simone's right there. He's on the island, and they might be able to make that. But if Sterling's heading there, can he make the weight though? Sterling, he's so big. If he hasn't been training, I'm not sure he'd make 135 in what is it, about a week's time.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I think they'll find someone. Sterling, I don't imagine he's a huge guy, Sterling. So I do think they need one of the smaller guys to maybe step up and take that fight. But I know there's who's looking for a fight right now. I think Nathaniel Wood's looking for a fight. He was meant to fight Khabib's cousin, weren't he? And Khabib's cousin's pulled off the card. So maybe that one. Maybe Nathaniel Woods jumps up and gets a big fight. Very interesting. I'm sure they'll get someone. Frankie, he's been waiting so long for this, so I hope they do get someone. He looked ripped when I seen a photo of him the other day. So hopefully they get someone. I'm sure they will.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the rankings now. I can't see them giving Edgar an unranked opponent for his debut, right? Because Pedro Munoz was ranked number 7. So I don't think they're going to give him an unranked guy. So that Simone's not ranked. Wood's not ranked. Neither is Vera. Here's an interesting. I'm looking at the rankings here. I want to get your opinion on this. So I noticed the other day. I can't remember who it was. Doesn't matter. I'm looking right now in the bantamweight rankings. Sean O'Malley's gone from 15 to 14 above Song Yadong without fighting. What do you think of the rankings like that, where they just randomly moving about? Because that doesn't make sense to me.
No, it doesn't really make sense that Sean O'Malley's in the rankings. To be fair, like he beat Eddie Wineland, who's out the rankings. So it's just like when things like that happen, you've got to say it's a popularity contest, and people like Sean O'Malley, so he's moving up the rankings without doing anything.
That's true.
But a lot of people have got a lot to say about the ranking system, and it's just good to see who's on there. But you know, someone like Chito Vera should still get the chance to fight Frankie, no matter what the people on them rankles panels say. So I'm sure, well, Frankie will just want to fight by this point. He's done so much work to get down to the weight. I don't think he'll be too bothered about. He needs to make money. I don't think so. I think he just want to get back in there and fight at 135 and feel it. And yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't work out. You know, he didn't get Pedro, but that was the plan, to give him a ranked guy. But it doesn't always work out, and it's up to him now. Do you want to fight? Do you want to let all this work to go to waste, or do you want to fight someone who we can get hold of and get paid?
Yeah, well, I mean, he was meant to fight Sandhagen before that, who would have been number 4 at the time. So, you know, if I'm him, I'm not fighting an unranked guy, because if he loses to an unranked guy, there goes your chance of climbing the rankings at bantamweight, you know. But maybe he does. Maybe they throw him in there with, like you said, a Nathaniel Wood or someone who's in camp. But yeah, it's just weird to me that Aljamain would post what he posted today after all that gets announced. He posted he's flying out to Fight Island. It's like, the timing's just seems like it fits too well for me. Anyway, that was the biggest news of the day. Other than that, I'm having a quick look down here. Greg Hardy versus Khalil Roundtree targeted for UFC 252. Now, I had just seen this now. I didn't even know this was a thing, so this is news to me. But I think that's a really tough fight for Hardy. So this will really test his striking, especially with Roundtree training in Phuket now at Tiger Muay Thai. He's got great Muay Thai, obviously. So it'll really test Hardy, because he's not going to wrestle. Hardy's not a wrestler. It'll be a striking battle, and really we'll get to see if he belongs to hang with the big boys, you know?
Yeah, it's very interesting from Khalil to move up. But I think last time he was speaking, he was saying this is a retirement fight. His next fight is a retirement fight. So, and he's only about 30, which is interesting. Also, the move to heavyweight's very interesting as well. So, if Hardy, this is a good step for Hardy. This is between the guys like Volkov and the guys he's been fighting. Roundtree's like perfectly in the middle there, where he's been beaten a few times, he's been knocked out. Hardy won't be unconfident heading into this one. You think you can get the knockout, and then Roundtree, he's got to be on his game. He's got to be sharp. And as we said last time, I like to see how people look at heavy when they're moving up in weight. Like, I won't make my pick until I see them on the scale, because Roundtree could come in, a bit tubby, and then it's just it's not good for anyone. So I hope he comes in sharp, and I think he will. And it just seems like a lot of these heavyweights fancy a heavyweight at the minute. So I don't know if it's just because they don't fancy cutting weights, or they're not in shape, or they just see the heavyweight division, see that the belt's about to open up, and think, if I get a big win or a couple of big wins, that belt's right there. Whereas the path to light heavyweight gold, you've got to go through John Jones, which is just it's impossible from what we've seen. So interesting move, interesting fight. Good fight for Greg Hardy. Really good fight. I think it's the right step at the right time.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more with that. So that pretty much wraps out all the news I had here. Is there anything else we want to touch on before we wrap it up?
No, that's me done.
Awesome. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll speak to you after the event to recap the action and preview the Wednesday card, because next week there is actually 2 cards, I believe. Is it next week? Or is it the week after? Am I losing my mind? No, it's next week.
No, 15th and the 18th.
That's right, 15th and the 18th.
Yeah.
So we'll preview one of them probably when we recap this event. Otherwise, we'll speak to you then. Thanks for watching.
Bye, guys.